The FBI has arrested a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman suspected of leaking classified documents, which has embarrassed the United States on the world stage once again. Jack Terra was taken into custody yesterday. Terra will have an initial appearance in the U.S. District Court of Massachusetts amid ongoing investigations. The Department of Defense referred the matter to the Justice Department, which opened a formal criminal probe last week. Military records show that Terra holds the rank of Airman First Class and has been in uniform since he entered the Air National Guard in September 2019. He has been based at the Otis Air National Guard base at Cape Cod and was assigned as a cyber transport systems journeyman. Some of the most sensitive leak details are related to Ukraine's military capabilities and shortcomings, and information about U.S. allies including Israel, South Korea and Turkey. President Joe Biden, who is on a 3-day tour of Ireland, said he was not overly concerned about the leak.
Jack Teixeira, who's been arrested now for the leak of those Pentagon documents, the latest leak from the Pentagon, and there have been many, has been detained after being produced in a federal court in Boston on Friday morning. He is next due in court on Wednesday next week and is likely to be charged under the Espionage Act. Each act of espionage could on its own carry a 10-year sentence. He could be guilty of several. He was arrested earlier in his little hometown in Massachusetts, and we saw footage of him emerging wearing shorts and a t-shirt and made to walk slowly backwards towards armed police who were waiting for him, and then handcuffed him and took him away. Teixeira was, of all things, an intelligence officer within the National Guard, a supportive wing of the US Air Force, and a raw recruit. He's just 21. He was tasked with preventing just the kind of thing he actually did. It's not clear what he was doing, leaking documents day 2 into the job, so to speak. The fact is that the documents were posted on the social media group Discord, and within a group calling itself Thug Shaker Central that talked guns and racism. Not clear why someone from this group was picked to handle intelligence for the US defense. Does not seem a particularly intelligent thing to have done. We still don't know the extent of the leak. Some early reports suggested 50 documents were leaked. That then came to 100. The New York Times says it has seen 300 of them and believes that that is just a fraction of the whole leak. The US police finally moved fast after the leak was detected. Now authorities are certain to prosecute him firmly. The US has had too much of this kind of leak, too much of this kind of thing now. Julian Assange had published classified information on nuclear installations and photographs of these in the name of freedom of expression. US authorities are now close to getting Assange back into the US through extradition from Britain. Making an example of these will be one way to block further leaks, while the authorities no doubt will put other measures in place.
The FBI on Thursday arrested a member of the U.S. Air National Guard over the leaks online of classified U.S. documents that embarrassed Washington with allies around the world. In brief remarks, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the apprehension of the suspect.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information. Teixeira is an employee of the United States Air Force National Guard. FBI agents took Teixeira into custody earlier this afternoon without incident. He will have an initial appearance at the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. I want to thank the FBI, Justice Department prosecutors, and our colleagues at the Department of Defense for their diligent work on this case. This investigation is ongoing. We will share more information at the appropriate time.
Garland added that the investigation is ongoing. U.S. officials have been hunting for weeks for the person responsible.
This was a deliberate criminal act, a violation of those guidelines. And so, again, I think that's important to understand. Now, we will continue to do everything we can to ensure that people who have a need to know when it comes to this kind of information have access to that.
In assessing damage from the release of the intelligence reports, which first appeared on social media sites in March, the Department of Defense referred the matter to the Justice Department, which opened a formal criminal probe last week. Some of the most sensitive leaked details are purportedly related to Ukraine's military capabilities and shortcomings, and information about U.S. allies including Israel, South Korea, and Turkey. President Joe Biden, who was on a 3-day tour of Ireland, said he was not overly concerned about the leak. Reuters has reviewed more than 50 of the documents, labeled secret and top secret, but has not independently verified their authenticity. The number of documents leaked is likely to be over 100. A number of countries have questioned the veracity of some of the leaked documents, including Britain, which said there was a serious level of inaccuracy in the information.
The Secretary General has been at his job for quite some time. He's been in politics and a public figure for quite some time. So he's not surprised, I think, by the fact that people are spying on him and listening on his private conversations. Unfortunately, either for various reasons, it allows such private conversations to be distorted and made public.
Will he be protesting to the United States about this?
Well, we're not in the habit of revealing his private phone calls with various member states.
The idea that the Secretary General is being soft on Russia, the idea that he will protect the Black Sea Grain Initiative at all costs. It's something we put to you before in this room when you cancelled the Olenivka prison inquiry, when you decided not to launch an inquiry into the use of Iranian drones by Russia.
I think those were policy decisions. The Secretary General is not soft on any one country or another. On the conflict in Ukraine, he has been very clear about the violations of international law, very clear about the violations of the Charter. He says the same thing when he's in Moscow, when he's in Kyiv, when he's in New York, and that's in the open record.
The person who leaked US classified documents prompting a national security investigation is a gun enthusiast in his 20s who worked on a military base. That's according to a Washington Post report on Wednesday, citing fellow members of an online chat group. The person shared classified information to a group on the instant messaging platform Discord of about 24 men and young boys who shared a, quote, mutual love of guns, the Post said. The Post based its report, which did not name the person, on interviews with 2 members of the Discord chat group. Reuters was unable to verify details of the report. Discord said in a statement earlier on Wednesday that it was cooperating with law enforcement. The Department of Defense and the Department of Justice did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment. The Department of Justice opened a formal criminal probe last week after the matter was referred by the Pentagon, which is assessing the damage done by what may be the most damaging release of classified US information in years. The leak purportedly reveals details of Ukrainian military vulnerabilities and information about allies, including Israel, South Korea, and Turkey.
The question on leaks, and I know you had asked specifically about the Prime Minister in the President's meeting yesterday. It did not come up, the leaked document in that conversation, so I can confirm that for all of you. As you know, there's an ongoing investigation that's being led by the Department of Justice. That's something that the Department of Defense quickly asked for once they learned about these documents. And I will also say the Department of Defense has said they have taken steps to further restrict access to sensitive information. Look, we are certainly reviewing the national security implications of the disclosure, and I can add that to mitigate the impact the release of these documents have on our U.S. national security and also on our allies and partners as well. And so this is something that we are taking very seriously. There is an ongoing investigation. DOD has taken steps to restrict access to these documents, and definitely don't want to get ahead of what's currently happening.
Mr. President, could you give an update on that leak investigation, the leaked documents from DOD?
I can't right now. There is a full-blown investigation going on, as you know, with the intelligence community and the Justice Department, and they're getting close. I don't have an answer.
How concerned are you about this leak?
Are you concerned about the leak? Okay, guys, it's time to go. Let's go. Cool, we got to move.
I'm not concerned about the leak because I'm concerned that it happened. But there's nothing contemporaneous that I'm aware of that is of great consequence.
Are you concerned about relationships?
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information. Teixeira is an employee of the United States Air Force National Guard.
We continue to review a variety of factors as it relates to safeguarding classified materials. This includes examining and updating distribution lists, assessing how and where intelligence products are shared, and a variety of other steps. I would say, though, that it is important to understand that we do have stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding classified and sensitive information. This was a deliberate criminal act, a violation of those guidelines. And so, again, I think that's important to understand. Now, we will continue to do everything we can to ensure that people who have a need to know when it comes to this kind of information have access to that. We're always going to learn from every situation. We have rules in place. Each of us signs a non-disclosure agreement, anybody that has a security clearance. And so all indications are, again, this is a criminal act, a willful violation of those. And again, another reason why we're continuing to investigate and support DOJ's investigation. This is not just about DOD. This is about the U.S. government. This is about how we protect and safeguard classified information. And as I highlighted, we do have strict protocols in place. So anytime there is an incident, anytime there's an opportunity to review that and refine it, we're of course going to take advantage of that. Within the Department of Defense, as you've heard us say, Secretary Austin has been convening daily meetings with his senior leaders, to include the chairman, to talk about reviewing the scope and the impact of this, and also to look at mitigation measures and what we need to do across the Department of Defense to ensure that we're doing our utmost to reinforce existing policies, procedures, and rules. And if there are any areas where we need to tighten things up, we certainly will. This was a deliberate criminal act to violate those guidelines and rules, in the same way that if you locked your front door and somebody came into your house and took something, you followed your procedures and you locked your door, but somebody went in your house and took something and put it out on the street. That's what we're talking about here.
And we're joined by Newman Merchant, a reporter for the Associated Press. Newman, tell us more about this arrest and what are the proceedings that are to follow?
21-year-old Jack Teixeira, an Air National Guardsman in Massachusetts who's accused of being the suspect in a leak of classified Pentagon documents. Teixeira was serving in the Guard for a couple of years and is alleged to have posted on an internet chat room months of documents that have U.S. secrets about military readiness in Ukraine and what the U.S. is doing to collect intelligence on allies and foes alike.
But Newman, he's just 21 years old. Do you think it adds up that he could by himself leak such exclusive and secretive documents? How did he even have access to it?
So the military entrusts very young, very junior people with high-level information. And for the most part, they have many processes in place to track this type of information and how it's used. But there's a large number of people at any given time that have access to a lot of secrets, and something like this can happen without anybody knowing. And in this case, it appears that Teixeira, or whoever leaked the documents, may have been posting them for months before the Pentagon or anybody in the US government was made aware.
Right. Thank you, Newman Merchant, for getting us the latest when it comes to this massive security breach in the United States with this intelligence leak carried out by that 21-year-old airman.